We do have a lot of conversations over the environment and oil, and because it's something that we're using every day. We haven't dropped our consumption of oil, we've just not produced it here. Those that, like I said, are politically motivated to stop the oil industry for whatever reason, they're not going to listen. But there are very powerful Democrats on the other side of the aisle that are like, wow, what do you mean we bring a ship from Saudi Arabia to our coastline and we only count the carbon emissions 12 miles off our coastline from a foreign operator? So some foreign country operator that drives that ship and owns that ship will say we use 10 carbon emissions to get here. And CARB accepts that as the gospel. And then we question it, and they're like, oh, it's only 12 miles off our coastline. So when you see all those ships in our ports down in Long Beach and everything, they're circling outside that 12-mile marker.
That doesn't count.
It doesn't count.
And the whole coming from across the world, that part doesn't count.
Doesn't count. Only the 12 miles does. And they're saying they're saving the world and reducing carbon. And they're not. They're just not counting it.
Now, what's the impact of this economically? You're in this county, right? You mentioned
Yes.
you guys have 72% of the oil production,
Yes.
right? What's the impact of this on you guys economically? If we were to...
We've had, because of the way that the oil industry has been treated here in California, and we're importing more oil, we're producing less here, and we've had businesses that have been in business for 60 years close. Golden State Drilling closed. KKS Industries, one of the largest employers that we've had other than a municipality, moved all of its operations to Texas and Wyoming. A skeletal crew is left. You have downstream companies, and when I say downstream, you might talk about Chevron, but Chevron hires a welding company, a crane company, a safety company that provides all the safety equipment. They hire a restaurant, restaurants bring out food, whatever. It's a complete community engagement for different businesses that are affected. They buy trucks for their employees to buy, so the auto industry is down. It's a real negative impact for not providing those jobs here. And the thing is that we're sourcing them, like I said, from foreign countries that are sometimes hostile to us. Last I checked, we had sent $5 billion to Russia. Russia invaded Ukraine. We partially funded part of that war. My producers here in Kern County have never invaded another country or started another war. When you look at us, Europe buying oil from Russia because we don't produce it in the United States anymore under the last 4 years, very limited production. We need to start producing it here and be a power broker for the energy industry and drastically reduce the economic benefits that other states have had.
You mentioned that some people want to just shut down this industry because it's political. Can you explain that?
So yeah, I think that I introduced a bill, and if you read the article, you can tell it's the people that are engaging on the opposite side of my bill. I introduced a bill, and it just says, let's ethically source our energy. If we get energy, I'm not saying don't get it from an Amazon rainforest, but don't remove indigenous Indians for their home in the Amazon rainforest, and don't bulldoze down the rainforest to do it. We get energy from Iraq. They don't let women vote or drive. I mean, they hang LGBTQ people. We don't do that here. Let's get our energy from ethically sourced countries. Ethically sourced energy, that's all it says. Let's look at it. Let's look at the environmental impact. Let's look at the cost of shipping that stuff to us, and does it add 30 cents a gallon to our consumers, and why would we do that? Let's look at the ethical part of importing energy. That's what my bill says. That's it. I want you to look at it. I'm not saying change it. I'm not saying pick it. I'm just saying let's put it on the table and say, wow, this cost us this much money to bring this from Saudi Arabia or wherever it comes from, right? Cost us this much to offload it off our ports. It cost this many carbon emissions. Let's just look at it. And so there was a group that came out absolutely, it's just rhetoric. She's just trying to cause problems. We're not changing our policy. Why can't we just find out what it is? Why can't we find out how many carbon emissions it takes to bring that ship here? Why do we have to accept just the 12 months? Why not point of origin to point of destination? It's just an informational bill. And you have people coming out against it left and right saying that, that's wrong and it's just rhetoric and I'm trying to stop green energy. I'm not trying to stop green energy. We produce green energy here. We have transmission lines. We have built this county out to be the energy capital of the state of California. Lorelei Oviatt, our planning director, is incredible. She's even teaching other counties how to permit solar and get it done. And I don't want to say bypass, but most all businesses pay taxes, but Sacramento gives the exemption to solar companies not to have to do it. And so she's teaching other counties how to charge a fee per acre so that they still contribute to libraries and roads and infrastructure and things that every other business pays for to make our communities better. You have all this going on, and we are the energy capital of the world, and we just want to know why you're taking it from us if it doesn't meet your goals. Your green energy goals, not yours, but theirs, their green energy goals. If you bring a ship here and it's 126 million metric tons of carbon emissions spewing into the atmosphere on a ship that burns bunker fuel, and you can put it in a pipeline down to Torrance and refine it for 12 metric tons or 20 metric tons, what better meets the environmental goal?
Now, do you think the business community in California has kind of given up on looking out for the rules that make sense for them?
I don't think so. I think they kind of got stagnant for a while, but now I think they're like, enough is enough. It's so difficult to hire somebody. When you think about it, like you think about a recycling company, they deal with probably 60 different agencies on reporting requirements if you've never gone through a recycling facility and looked at it. When you look at our agricultural community, their CARB, an unelected bureaucratic agency, just raised the cost of fuel by 60 cents a gallon. I didn't vote for that. My colleagues didn't vote for that. But they came out with this ultra-low carbon fuel standard, and they're going to raise people's gas prices. That should not be allowed to happen. When you look at the business community being able to fight those things, there is technology. When these old rules were put in place, the technology wasn't there, and now there's technology that you could burn a different kind of biofuel, and you could reduce carbon emissions in tractors and farm equipment. But they're like, nope, and it would be cheaper to do. You just change out the engine, it would be a lot cheaper. They're like, no, you have to buy a new vehicle, or you have to buy a new tractor, or you have to buy a new truck. Look at motorhomes. You know how many people have motorhomes, and they're outlawing motorhomes in the state of California? That's
Do they have to be electric?
dream retirement. How would you have that? I see people up, I represent the area up in like Shaver and Huntington Lake and all of that, the mountain communities, and it snows and people go up to there and enjoy the mountain community and snows, and they've got their Teslas with a generator on the back because there's no way to charge them. I have a problem too. I think I'm pretty fair and balanced. Like what we were talking earlier about Assemblymember Corey Jackson, and he introduced a bill about, and his heart was in the right place. It really was, to put a lithium battery production plant in his community where these jobs would be placed so that people could work there. And it happened, he introduced that bill right after we had that big Otay Mesa fire where it took like 3 weeks to put it out, and they moved people out of the area, and soot and black smoke and everything filled that whole community for, several weeks. Why would you put something like that, of that type of dangerous magnitude, in a low socioeconomic disadvantaged community? Why would you do that? And so I know his heart was right. He was thinking about the jobs for his community, but that kind of facility needs to be out someplace way away from people. And so I got up and spoke against it. But there are a lot of good jobs that could come to the communities that we serve, and it would be beneficial to these communities. And I think we just need to think strategically and think what's best for all of Californians and get past the rhetoric, I guess, from both sides. From both sides. I know that there's going to be rhetoric coming out of the Trump administration. I know, I do. But why can't we just walk down the middle and say, that works well, that doesn't help us, this helps us a lot. And let's move California to a better place.